I never thought my sister's wedding day would become the moment that changed everything between us. My name is Emma, and I'm 26 years old. My sister Claire is 30, and she was marrying Richard Thompson, one of the most successful real estate moguls in Manhattan. The whole thing felt like a fairy tale, but fairy tales don't always have happy endings. The wedding was held at the Plaza Hotel in October. The autumn air in New York was crisp, and the golden leaves were falling outside the massive windows. I remember feeling the cold marble under my heels as I walked through the lobby that morning. My heart was beating fast, not from excitement, but from something I couldn't quite name. Maybe it was the way Richard had been looking at me during the rehearsal dinner the night before. Claire had been my best friend my whole life. We grew up in Queens, in a small apartment where our mother worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. When Claire landed her job at Thompson Enterprises 5 years ago, everything changed for our family. She started as an assistant, but Richard noticed her immediately. Within 6 months, she was promoted to marketing director. Within a year, they were dating. Within 3 years, she had a ring on her finger that cost more than our childhood home. I worked at Thompson Enterprises too. Richard hired me as a graphic designer 2 years ago, right after Claire and I graduated from different colleges. At first, I thought it was nepotism, but Richard always told me I earned my place there. He would stop by my desk, compliment my work, and ask about my day. Claire would laugh and say he was just being nice because I was her little sister. But lately, something felt different. The morning of the wedding, I was helping Claire get ready in the bridal suite. The room was filled with white roses and champagne glasses. Claire looked stunning in her designer dress, her blonde hair perfectly curled, her blue eyes sparkling with happiness. I was wearing a deep emerald bridesmaid dress that Claire had picked out. She said it brought out my green eyes and made my brown hair look rich and shiny. Emma, can you believe this is really happening? Claire asked as the makeup artist applied her lipstick. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to wake up and find out it's all been a dream. I forced a smile. You deserve all of this, Claire. You've worked so hard. But even as I said it, I felt a knot in my stomach. The truth was, I had been feeling uncomfortable around Richard for weeks. It started with small things. He would text me directly about work projects instead of going through Claire. He would compliment my outfits when I came to office parties. Last month, he had given me a raise that seemed too generous for someone with my experience. Claire never seemed to notice. She was too busy planning the wedding and managing her new responsibilities as the future wife of a Manhattan millionaire. The ceremony was beautiful. 300 guests filled the plaza's ballroom. I walked down the aisle first, my hands shaking as I held my bouquet of white peonies. Richard was waiting at the altar in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, his dark hair slicked back, his brown eyes scanning the crowd. When he saw me, he smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile you give your future sister-in-law. It was something else. I took my place at the altar and watched as Claire walked down the aisle on our stepfather's arm. She looked like a princess. The whole room seemed to hold its breath as she approached Richard. When he lifted her veil and kissed her, everyone applauded. I clapped too, but my heart felt heavy. During the reception, I tried to stay busy. I helped coordinate with the wedding planner, made sure the elderly guests had comfortable seats, and kept an eye on the gift table. The ballroom was decorated with thousands of white roses and crystal chandeliers. A live jazz band played softly as guests enjoyed their 5-course dinner. I was standing near the bar when Richard approached me. Claire was across the room, laughing with her college friends. "You look beautiful tonight, Emma," he said, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "Thank you," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Claire looks amazing too." "Yes, she does," he agreed, but his eyes never left my face. "But you have something she doesn't." I felt my cheeks burn. "Richard, I should go check on the cake cutting schedule." But before I could step away, he moved closer. The scent of his expensive cologne filled my nostrils. "Emma, wait. I need to tell you something." "Whatever it is, it can wait until after the wedding," I said firmly. He shook his head. "No, it can't. I've been wanting to say this for months." My heart started racing. Around us, the reception continued. Guests were chatting, laughing, clinking glasses. The jazz band was playing a slow version of Fly Me to the Moon. Claire was now talking to our aunt near the head table, completely unaware of what was happening, just 50 feet away. Richard, Please don't, I whispered, but he leaned in closer. So close I could feel his breath on my ear. You're not like her, Emma. You're real. You're genuine. Claire, she's beautiful, but she's also calculating. She loves what I can give her, not who I am. I stepped back like he had burned me. How can you say that on your wedding day? Because it's true, he said, his voice intense. I've been watching you for 2 years. The way you care about your work, the way you treat people, the way you never ask me for anything. You're different. I looked around desperately, hoping no one was watching us. The last thing I wanted was for Claire to see this conversation. Richard, you just married my sister. You need to stop this right now. I know what I just did, he said, but I also know what I feel, and I think you feel it too. That's when I realized he was right, and that terrified me. Over the past few months, I had started looking forward to seeing him at work. I had started paying more attention to how I dressed on days when I knew he would be in the office. I had started feeling jealous when Claire talked about their romantic dinners or weekend trips. But I also knew it was wrong. Claire was my sister, my best friend, the person who had helped me through college when our mother got sick. She had given me a job, a new life, a chance to live in Manhattan instead of struggling in Queens. I need some air, I said, and I walked away from him quickly. I pushed through the crowd and made it to the hotel's outdoor terrace. The October night was cold, and I hadn't brought a jacket. The city lights stretched out below me, and I could hear the sounds of traffic from Fifth Avenue. I wrapped my arms around myself and tried to think clearly. What was I supposed to do with this information? Richard had just confessed feelings for me on his wedding night, my sister's wedding night, and the worst part was that part of me had wanted to hear it. I was still standing on the terrace when Claire found me. There you are, she said, stepping outside. Everyone's looking for you. We're about to cut the cake. She looked so happy, so radiant. Her cheeks were flushed from champagne and dancing. Her hair had come slightly loose from its perfect updo, giving her a romantic, carefree look. Sorry, I said, forcing a smile. I just needed some fresh air. Are you okay? You look pale. I'm fine, just a little overwhelmed. It's been such a beautiful day. Claire hugged me tightly. Thank you for everything, Emma. I couldn't have done any of this without you. You're the best sister in the world. I hugged her back, feeling like the worst person alive. I love you, Claire. I love you too. Now come on, let's go cut this cake. Richard keeps asking where you went. We walked back inside together, but I felt like I was moving through a fog. The rest of the reception passed in a blur. I smiled when I was supposed to smile, laughed when I was supposed to laugh, and gave a maid of honor speech that everyone said was perfect. But all I could think about was Richard's words. You're not like her. The next few days were torture. I called in sick to work, which I never did. I stayed in my small studio apartment in Brooklyn, ordering takeout and trying to figure out what to do. Claire and Richard had left for their honeymoon in Italy, so I had 2 weeks to get my head straight. But when they returned, everything got worse. Richard started finding excuses to work late when he knew I would still be in the office. He would bring me coffee in the mornings, remember details about my weekend plans, and compliment my work in ways that felt too personal. Claire, meanwhile, was glowing with newlywed happiness. She had moved into Richard's penthouse on the Upper East Side, and she loved showing me pictures of their honeymoon, their new furniture, their plans for redecorating. I still can't believe this is my life, she told me one day when we met for lunch at a cafe near Central Park. Sometimes I wake up and think I'm going to find myself back in our old apartment in Queens. You deserve all of it, I said, and I meant it. You worked hard to get where you are. We both did, she said, and Richard keeps talking about promoting you again. He says you're the most talented designer the company has ever had. My stomach twisted. He said that? All the time. He's always praising you. Sometimes I joke that he talks about you more than he talks about me. She laughed when she said it, but I didn't. The situation came to a head 3 months after the wedding. It was a Friday afternoon in January, and most of the office had already left for the weekend. I was working late on a presentation that was due Monday morning. The building was quiet except for the humming of computers and the distant sound of traffic from the street. I heard footsteps in the hallway and looked up to see Richard approaching my desk. He was still wearing his suit from earlier meetings, but his tie was loosened and his sleeves were rolled up. "Working late again?" he asked. "This presentation won't finish itself," I replied, not looking up from my computer. "Emma." His voice was serious. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." "Yes, we do. This has been going on for months." I finally looked at him. "What has been going on?" "You're married to my sister. That's what's going on." He sat down in the chair across from my desk. "I made a mistake. Getting married? Marrying the wrong sister." The words hung in the air between us like a bomb waiting to explode. I stared at him, not sure if I had heard him correctly. "You can't say things like that," I whispered. "Why not?" "It's true. Because Claire loves you. Because she's my sister. Because this is insane." He leaned forward. "Emma, I think about you all the time. When I'm with Claire, I'm thinking about you. When I'm in meetings, I'm wondering what you're working on. When I come home to our penthouse, I wish you were there instead of—" I stood up so quickly that my chair rolled backward and hit the wall. "Stop it. Just stop." "I can't stop. I've tried. Do you think I wanted to feel this way? Do you think I wanted to fall for my wife's sister?" "You didn't fall for me," I said desperately. "You're just confused, or having cold feet about the marriage, or something." "I'm not confused." He stood up too, and suddenly we were facing each other across my small desk. "I'm in love with you, Emma. I have been since the day I met you." That was after you were already engaged to Claire. "I know. I thought I could ignore it. I thought it would go away after the wedding. But it's only gotten stronger." I felt tears starting to form in my eyes. "Richard, you're going to destroy everything. Our family, your marriage, my relationship with Claire, my job. I'll leave." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "I'll divorce Claire and marry you instead." "Are you out of your mind?" I was crying now, not caring if anyone in the building could hear me. "Claire is pregnant." The room went completely silent. Richard's face went white, and he sat down heavily in his chair. "What did you say?" "She's pregnant, Richard. She found out yesterday. She was going to surprise you tonight with a special dinner." I watched as the reality of the situation hit him. His hands were shaking as he ran them through his hair. "She's pregnant," he repeated quietly. "Yes, and she's so happy. She called me this morning crying tears of joy because she's been wanting to start a family with you." Richard buried his face in his hands. "Oh God, what have I done?" "Nothing yet," I said firmly. "You haven't done anything yet. But you need to stop this right now. You need to go home to your wife and be the husband she deserves." "Emma?" "No." I grabbed my purse and coat from my desk. "I'm done with this conversation. And I'm done with this job. You can't quit. Watch me." I walked toward the elevator, but Richard followed me. "Emma, please. Don't do this. Don't leave because of me." I turned around to face him one last time. "I'm not leaving because of you, Richard. I'm leaving because of me. Because if I stay, I might do something I'll regret for the rest of my life. And Claire doesn't deserve that." The elevator arrived, and I stepped inside. Richard was standing in the hallway, looking broken and lost. "She's lucky to have you as a sister," he said as the doors started to close. "No," I replied. "She's lucky to have you as a husband. Don't forget that." That weekend, I helped Claire prepare for her surprise dinner. I listened to her talk about baby names and nursery themes. I watched her glow with happiness as she talked about her future family, and I made the hardest decision of my life. I took a job with a design firm in Boston. I told Claire it was a great career opportunity, which was true. I told her I needed a change of scenery, which was also true. I told her I would visit often, which I hoped would be true. What I didn't tell her was that I was in love with her husband, and that he was in love with me, and that staying in New York would eventually destroy us all. On my last day in the city, Claire and Richard took me to dinner at a restaurant in Little Italy. Claire was barely showing yet, but she kept her hand on her stomach protectively. Richard barely spoke during dinner, but when he did, he was kind and supportive about my new job. As we were saying goodbye outside the restaurant, Claire hugged me tightly. "I'm going to miss you so much," she said, tears in her eyes. "I'll miss you too, but I'll be back for holidays and birthdays. And I'll definitely be back when the baby comes." Richard shook my hand formally, like a boss saying goodbye to an employee. But when our eyes met, I saw everything he couldn't say out loud. That night, as I packed my apartment, I found a note that had been slipped under my door. It was from Richard. "Emma," it read, "you were right about everything. Claire is lucky to have you as a sister, and I'm lucky to have her as a wife. Thank you for saving us all from making a terrible mistake. I hope someday you can forgive me for putting you in this position. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the man Claire deserves, and the father our child deserves, and I will never forget the woman who taught me what real integrity looks like." I cried as I read it, but they were good tears, cleansing tears. 6 months later, I got a call from Claire. She was in labor. I drove down from Boston and made it to the hospital just in time to meet my nephew. He was perfect, with Claire's blonde hair and Richard's brown eyes. "His name is Michael," Claire told me as I held him for the first time. "Michael Thompson." Richard was standing next to the hospital bed, looking tired but happy. When he looked at his son, I could see pure love in his eyes. When he looked at Claire, I could see gratitude and commitment. When he looked at me, I saw respect and friendship, but nothing more. The dangerous moment had passed. We had all chosen love over selfishness, family over desire, doing what was right over doing what felt good in the moment. That was 5 years ago. I'm still in Boston, running my own design firm now. I'm dating a wonderful man named David, who makes me laugh and challenges me to be better. Claire and Richard have 2 children now, Michael and little Sarah. They seem genuinely happy together. I visit New York every few months, and we all get together for family dinner. Richard and I interact like normal in-laws. We're friendly but not too friendly, warm but not too warm. Claire has never seemed to suspect that anything ever happened between us, probably because technically nothing ever did. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had made different choices that night at the wedding, if I had listened to Richard's confession and responded differently, if I had stayed in New York and let the situation develop naturally. But I don't regret the choice I made. Claire deserved better than a sister who would betray her trust, and a husband who would abandon his commitment. Their children deserved parents who chose their family over their fleeting desires. And I deserved to find love honestly, with someone who was free to love me back. The whisper that changed everything wasn't just Richard telling me you're not like her. It was the whisper of my own conscience, telling me who I wanted to be when faced with an impossible situation. I chose to be someone my sister could trust, someone my nephew and niece could look up to, and someone I could respect when I looked in the mirror. And that choice made all the difference.